Hi, welcome to Rooted, a compelling youth talk show designed to help young people navigate life, find solution, and in the midst of real life and true life questions. My name is Ayo. Welcome to the show. Today on the show, I have a great guest, a renowned personality in the world of tech, blockchain technology, and so many more. This is Wells Television. Online, thank you so much for watching. Remember to like and share this video. And most importantly, before we dive into the conversation for today, I would want you to go straight to the subscribe button area. Click on the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, very important, so that when we drop a brand new video, you will be the first person to get this video. Let's get straight in the conversation. All right, welcome back. This is still Rooted, the conversation that matters on Wells Television on YouTube. My guest on the show today is a tech entrepreneur, someone you would like to listen to. When it gets to the blockchain technology, when it gets to cryptocurrency and the likes, I know Yele Bademosi. I have met Yele Bademosi. I follow Yele Bademosi on Instagram. So I see I see the social part of Yele Bademosi, which is basically what Instagram is all about. Mm-hmm. But one of the websites, in particular Wikipedia, described Yele Bademosi as a medical school dropout. And that part jumped at me. So I want to go back to your dad's wish. Mm-hmm. Your wish or your dad's wish to be a medical doctor. Of course, your dad is a medical doctor. His legacy, the hospital is still running, mm-hmm. Up until today. Mm-hmm. So it's maybe normal to a lot of Africans to say, what, I'm a medical doctor. My child should be. I'm asking this question now. Yeah. Of course, the name of the show is Rooted. And maybe a parent is watching this right now and would want their child to be who they are. Mm. You run your lot chamber, you run your own hospital, your own business, and you want your children to carry that same legacy. Whose wish exactly to be a medical doctor? Your wish or your dad?
So one thing I would give like my dad and my mom credit for is that they never once said like, oh, you must be or you have to do like this particular thing. In secondary school, I was good at sciences, but I was better at biology, right? So I did okay in physics, but I didn't really like physics. I couldn't draw a straight line, so I knew I couldn't be an architect. And then my dad's brother was a doctor, his sister was a doctor, my dad was a doctor. My eldest sister is currently a doctor. And so it was kind of like if you're doing well in school and you like biology,
maybe
that is like the thing. Yeah. Like I always say, like what I do today did not exist when I was in secondary school, right? Like, Bitcoin started in 2008, and the blockchain industry, as we know, that was the birth of the industry in 2008. Yeah. I started medical school in 2009, and I began the journey of getting into medical school as far back as 2006, right? So, that didn't exist. And alongside what I do in the blockchain or on-chain economy space, I also invest in tech startups.
Yeah.
And the venture capital industry in Nigeria when I was in secondary school was virtually non-existent. So what I do today as an industry didn't really exist. So I think I would say it was my wish then, but I personally always find it like really wild or like crazy that we expect 14, 15-year-olds to know what they want to do with their life so early, right? I feel like
which we see a lot today. You know, you ask a 13 or 12-year-old, you should know
And
what you want to
I'm
be.
like, that
So you
is-
think it's too early
it's
at
too
that
early
age?
because you have no exposure. I mean, I think now is, you know, things are a bit different because of the internet and things like that. But
Right.
growing up,
At the
you
time, yeah.
you had a very limited view on the world. So I think
Yeah.
it's less about knowing. Like in the U.S. actually, the U.S. university system is quite different in that you don't necessarily need to have a course. You can just sort of drop in and out of like classes, and you're collecting enough credits to graduate. And I think that is a much better sort of like style of education
Yeah.
than having to decide before you go in like, oh, this is definitely what I want to do. You know, my mom always says that she's not a big fan of that, of the dropout word, and that's because like I said, I'm not a dropout.
I mean, Wikipedia said that.
You know what's funny? I've actually never looked at my Wikipedia
Oh wow, you
page.
should.
I don't even know.
I'm sure you're
how
going to find
they-
interesting stuff about you.
I don't even know how
All of
they
them
put
good
that
though,
together.
positive stuff. Yeah.
But I do have even though I sort of, you know, exited the medical school program, I'd done at least 3 years.
3 years.
So
Wow.
I do have a medical sciences degree.
Which is beautiful still.
But I've never, you know, yesterday I was catching up with my mom, and she was just telling me this story, where at this time I'd moved to Lagos, and you know, she was clearing out like my room and just wanted to just make sure I didn't like maybe forget something, or just, you know, making the room ready for maybe like a guest that was gonna come. And so as they were clearing out the room, you know, she was sitting down on the bed, and they were checking out some things, and then they opened like one of the wardrobes, and there was this paper, and when she asked them to bring the paper, it was my certificate.
Wow.
Now,
The one for the medical system. Goodness.
so
Hold on. After the medical degree, 3 years, and then you brought back the certificate, moved on with your life, and left it at home. Interesting stuff. Please go on.
and so she was like, you know, she still has the certificate, and she's kept it like in her own wardrobe. But I think like what's interesting is that throughout my career, and I've been working professionally now for over a decade.
Wow.
No one has ever asked me about my
degree?
my degree.
Yeah.
When I hire people for any of our companies, I never ask about their degrees, right? So I think like, you know, work and the nature of work is completely changing, and you know, I spend a lot of my time thinking about how to equalize like access to economic opportunities. I'm a big believer that your geographical location should not determine the quality of life or access or financial services.
Do you
that
think
have
this
access to.
this school of thought about certification and what you do is peculiar to your venture, or is applicable? Can we apply that to other venture? Because this is Nigeria, for instance, and we're big on papers here. Your first degree, your second degree, and as many as you can, you know, bring on the table will also help you make a better
So I think it's
living.
industry specific.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So if you're working in the digital economy, if you're working in banking, or you're working in like for a law firm or an accountancy company, they care about those things. But if you're working in digital economy, you're working for tech, an on-chain company, which is, we don't really say crypto, we say on-chain. If you're working in the creative economy or the creator economy, no one is going to ask you about your certificate. The key thing is, can you do the work that you're set up for, right? And that's the most important thing. So you said something which I'm not sure I cannot circle back to. Any parent who has a child, and you know, is maybe the child is kind of considering thinking about this stuff. I think, like, you know, my mom said something about, like, you know, trusting God and letting go. And I feel like it's actually easier today than it was like 10 years ago. Because now you can see the industry. You have examples of young Nigerians and Africans.
I mean, that can console you for the decision.
You know what I'm saying? But
making,
like 10 years ago, it wasn't so clear and obvious. It wasn't, you know, I didn't know where I was gonna come back to Nigeria to like work or anything like that. But like now, there are many companies that people can do that, right? Now, you know, I think if I was like, you know, maybe 18 or 19 or even 20, what I'll have, like by now, I'll have probably been working remotely or engaging with like the type of companies and people that like I admire.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily about like dropping out, right? It's more about like, are you putting yourself in spaces and conversations? And the beauty of the internet, it doesn't mean that you need to go to Lagos or go to some tech hub.
Yeah.
You know, even when I moved back to Nigeria in I think it was 2015, my first job that I got in Lagos, the founder of the business was based in the UK. And I read an article on tech about kind of a trip he did to Nigeria and Lagos, and there's a lot of alignment in, you know, what he was trying to do. So I decided to send him a cold email.
Okay.
And I was like, "Hi Dotun, you don't know me, but I read this article that you wrote. This is why I think about it. This is what you're trying to do. This is how I think I can help, and you don't have to pay me." And
value.
within,
What are you bringing to the table?
exactly right. And within 3 months, like he, you know, used to within 3 months was paying me, and you know, within like 6 months, I was running the Nigeria operation.
Interesting stuff. Let me backtrack a bit. I still want to stay with your family, your parents. At the time you left the medical school, your dad had passed at the time. What's your mom's reaction to, I saw it somewhere online, your mom's reaction, but I wanted to share it with us here. Your mom's reaction, I can only imagine what that would be like for a mother, expecting her only son to be a medical doctor, you know, her husband's, you know, her late husband's profession. Your mom's reaction, that's number one. And then number two, someone trying to leave whatever they're doing now. Seeing, I mean, you read up, maybe you're finding Yele Bademosi on your screen for the very first time, and then that hunger to do something new. Oh, this is the guy for me, and then you start checking up about Yele Bademosi. But how do I then start something new? You know, sometimes you get stuck in your old self. Oh yeah, I really want to be a medical doctor, and all of a sudden, I don't feel like it anymore. Then how do I move from trying to be that person to becoming something new? So let's start with your mom's reaction, and then to encourage someone by sharing your own story about how did you move from now moving away from medicine and then starting something new, clarity, vision.
And my mom's reaction is what you would expect. You know, it was shock and confusion and sort of worry, and for all the reasons that you mentioned, right? Which is like, I didn't have that much left to do. I had basically like, you know, a year and a bit, right? And that's not a long time on the grand scheme of things. And
and that was very disappointing. I can imagine.
I don't know. Well, I don't know if she was. I don't think she was disappointed. Actually, I think it was just like more shock and concern about like, am I making a decision that I would regret in the future? It took about like a year, in terms of like the first time I'd mentioned it. But then if you look at what I did during that period, there was a lot of growth and sort of unearthing some kind of direction, right? And there's a letter that I have, and I read this on almost pretty much every birthday. The blog post is called "How I Told My Mom I Wanted to Leave Medical School," and I basically wrote a letter explaining like, you know, my thinking behind the decision and why it was important for me. I wrote about like what I wanted to do during that particular period and how I was gonna pick up different skills and better myself. And I talked about the things I'd done in the last year, the books I had read, the inspirations I've had. And I think I closed with something like, you know, in the future when you hear people talking about Yele Bademosi, you'll smile to yourself and be like, that's my son. And again, it's still really early. It's just 10 years later, but I would like to think that my mom is proud of me, and probably even proud of herself for kind of letting go and sort of like trusting God that this would be like the right decision, because again, like I said, it's a lot of faith. It's like it's Abrahamic in a way, right? In that now it's everybody's like, oh yes, of course, but back then I don't think it was, and I think that also helped our relationship, because she is and was like my first supporter. I wanted to get this. I was trying to build an app at the time, and to build an iOS app, you need a MacBook, because you can't write iOS apps on a Windows, right? So, I've gotten a lot of laptops in the last 10 years. I still have the back of that laptop.
Wow.
And I'm gonna sort of like emboss it somewhere, because that was where the dreams really
and your mom
began.
bought it for you, right?
And she got that for me. So
wow.
So maybe I would even get her to like sign it or something and just keep it there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like that letter really changed it, because even if I tried to have a conversation, maybe like I wouldn't have like expressed myself as well. Maybe I would have gone off a tangent, but like sitting down and writing
put
that,
something together.
And it's so funny. Like I wrote it back then. I said my mission in life is to connect people, inspire change, and create happiness. And 10 years later, that is still my mission.
And of course, one thing I'm picking from all of this, that Yele Bademosi is very straightforward and clear. Even from that age, too clear about what you want to do and what you want to achieve. I'll come back to that. Let me, answer the next question about what do you say to someone?
Yeah.
Leaving whatever they do now and then finding expression in something else.
Yeah.
And then before we get to your faith and the things, that you believe in or your driving force.
Yeah. What I say to anybody who wants to do something is what separates, the people who do from people who talk about it is that they do. And no matter how big your vision is, no matter how big your dream is, no matter how big your ambition is, there's always like the first step, right? So if I wanted to run from here to the gate, I want to run from here to Lagos, I want to run from here to China, the first step is still one step.
Just to move.
Right? So a lot of people kind of like forget that, and they keep focusing on, man, to get to China, to do this, that. But actually, like, you learn more from just doing, right? So that's kind of one of the big things. Like, action produces information.
Right.
Most important. Number 2 is you need to question yourself and know your why. Right? Because there are going to be days where you question yourself and you're asking, like, why am I doing this? And if your why was, I want to be famous, I want to have money, I want to impress people, it's not going to be enough to see you through the hard days, right? So having a why and making it like something that is personal to you, something that doesn't change, is your North Star, and that keeps you going. And then the last one, which is probably something I've learned more recently, is sort of, I'll combine 2 key ideas. There's something that we call type 1 and type 2 decisions.
Okay.
And then there's also like what I call like risk management, right? So with any decision you make in life, is either a type 1 or type 2. Type 1 is a decision that if you get wrong, you really screwed up, and it's not really easy to unwind, right? So for instance, if I want to start a business and I only have 100,000 naira in my account, and I've not planned, and I take the 100,000 naira to buy one single piece of equipment, and it turns out to be wrong, then
where do you go from there?
So there are decisions in life that you need to be really sure and thoughtful, and with those ones you kind of move slow. And there are decisions that if you were wrong and you've learned that you were wrong and you're honest about it, you can kind of like go back. So a type 1 decision is a single way door once you open it, you can, and it's closed, you can't go back. The
go
type
back.
2 is a revolving door. So you can go in, learn that it's not the thing, and then you come back. And so when you're making this, like, success in life and in business is a series of decisions and knowing which decision is what, type 1 or type 2. And for any type 1 decision, then your risk management has to be like very, very good. Don't do things that puts, your entire kind of like well-being and life and health at risk because of like some goal. Because the truth is, you can have the best idea, best team, best capital, and you're still not successful. There's an X factor that you don't know, that you can never know how critical it is in the equation until you're in it already. So those would be like my...
Wow. While sharing your story, I can only imagine, dropping medicine and starting something. And with that level of clarity, especially with your story about the letter you wrote to your mom, your life vision and goals, the things that you want to do. Again, you still find a lot of people in their 20s, late 20s, 30s, even up until 40s. And then they're still struggling with what exactly, who is this person? Who is Ayo? Who is Yele? Some people are still struggling, even in their late 30s and in their 40s. Let's talk about your faith, the driving force. Where is God in all of this? Did you consult God in any way? Of course, you also shared that you followed your parents, your mom in particular, to mission field. And so early exposure to the things of God and the proper understanding that God is supreme in the affairs of men. I want to, feel your pulse on that and see how did God come in that decision making?
It's extremely important to kind of have that cornerstone or pillar that you can always go back to and run to, because I like this idea of like a North Star, and you can have your own internal compass, but you also need an external compass, something that kind of keeps you grounded and you sort of get calibrated to. The person in the Bible that I'm a big believer in sort of, icons or like exemplars, right? And the person I kind of relate to the most in the Bible is Joseph. People who know me, even in the business world, knows that I know that I talk about dreams a lot, right?
Wow.
Maybe this might even come across as like morbid, but I have an idea of what I want on my tombstone when my time is done, and it's essentially a dreamer, a builder, and a doer. For me, Joseph was someone who had dreams, and he took time to sort of understand those dreams and also work towards it. But what a lot of people don't realize is that Joseph got to where he was not by executing his own dreams, but by helping other people understand and achieve their own dreams, right? So I've built my life around that sort of like similar concept, I think like it's so important to have that, because man, like I can't even go into like some of the challenges and struggles of the last sort of 4 to 5 years.
Doing that without God, it would have been a lot.
It's a lot, right? So we have, being an entrepreneur, being a business person, it's never like a straight line. People see things on the outside and they think like, wow, this is a...
All right. I am very interested in that, right? You find what do you do? Crypto. What do you do? Crypto. And then, Yele Bademosi is here. We're going to get back into that in a moment. Remember to subscribe, like our video, share, and drop your comment. We'll be right back in a moment. Stay with us.